Hi everybody, welcome to Live Blogger. I have combined all the videos in our new sticker design series into this single long video so that it's easy for you to follow. Now in this video we are basically going to create this design right here using HTML, CSS and JavaScript. So here we can see that we have different news displayed over here with this animation. And then I will also show you how to add this to your Blogger website. And in the end I will also show you how to display the latest post in your Blogger website instead of this news over here. So here we can see that the latest posts of our Blogger website are displayed over here. So we're going to do all of this in this video, and I will also leave the link of the source code in the description of this video. So let's get started. Now news stickers are normally text that scrolls, but in this video we will see how to create this animation right here for each of the news. And if you want to learn how to create scrolling text, I have a video on that, so you can check that out. I will leave the link in the description of this video. Right here we can see I have created this folder called news sticker and I just opened it with VS Code. Now let's go ahead and create the necessary files. So let's click on new file and let's create an HTML file. I'll just name it index.html. And now let's create a CSS file. I'll just name it style.css. And let's also create a JavaScript file. I'll just name it main.js. So let's start with the index.html file, and in VS Code you can just press exclamation and press tab and you'll have this basic HTML5 code. And let's link our CSS file over here. So I'll just type style.css over here in the href, and let's link the JavaScript file over here. So just type main.js. Right now let's start with the markup of our design, but before that let's go ahead and add the fonts that we need. So here we can see we are using a font called Poppins, and we need to get the bold version and the regular version and also a thin version for this text right here. So let's go to fonts.google.com. So here I'm in fonts.google.com and let's search for Poppins, and let's click on the font, and we need to get the thin version, so let's select this. And then we need to get the regular version, so let's select regular 400, and let's also select a bold version. I'll just select bold 700. Right now let's click on this button called view selected families, and let's copy this link from here. So if you want to add it in the HTML you can get this link, and if you want to add it inside the CSS you can get this code right here. So let's just copy this link from here and let's go back, and here in the head section I'll just paste the link. Right now let's go ahead and start with the markup. So the first thing we will do is we'll create a container division, and let's give it a class of news container. And in that we need to have a heading for this text right here. So let's create a division with a class of news heading, and you can add any text over here. I'll just type news. Right now let's open this in our browser and let's see how it looks. So I have this extension called Live Server installed in VS Code. So once you install that, you can just right click over here in the HTML and click on open with Live Server. And here we can see our design is displayed in the browser. Now the next thing we need to have are these different news headings. So for that let's go back and let's create a container division for that, and let's give it a class of news, and in that we'll have each of the single news. So I'll just give it a class of news single, and let's add some news over here. So I'll just quickly go ahead and copy some of the news over here. Right, so here I have created all these news text over here, and I have changed the division into an anchor tag because we can go ahead and add the link of the news post over here. So here we can see these are all the anchor tags for the news, and for the first one we can see we have this class of active. So by default we want the first one to be visible, and then we need to add the active class to the second one and the third one and so on. Right now let's start styling this. So this is how it looks right now. So let's go to our style.css file, and first of all let's add some styles to the body. So I'll just type body, and I'll just set the margin to 0. We will also add a text over here in the body. So let's go back, and here I'll just create a paragraph, and I'll just type hi welcome. Right now let's go back to style.css file, and let's bring this text to the center of the screen. So I'll just type display of grid, place items to the center. Right now let's set the height of the body to 100 viewport height, and we need to position this news container to the top. So let's do that. So here we have this container division called news container. So let's tap news container, and let's set the position to fixed, and let's set the top position to 0, and the right position to 0, and the left position to 0, so that it is at the top and it is stretched across the screen. And let's also add some styles to this text. So here I'll just type font size, and I'll just set it to 80 pixels, and let's set the font weight to 100, and let's set the font family to Poppins and sans serif. Now let's go back to our design, and this is how it looks. Let's change the font size of the news. So here I'll just type font size, and I'll just set it to 16 pixels, and now it looks alright. So now let's style this news container. So here let's add a background color. So I'll just type background, and let's set the color to 003262, and let's set the color of the text to 73C2FB, and this is how it looks. Let's also add some padding. So I'll just type padding, and I'll just set it to 10 pixels top and bottom, and 32 pixels left and right. And let's also add a box shadow. So I'll just type box shadow, and let's set the values to 0, 4 pixels, 40 pixels, negative 8 pixels, RGBA, and let's set the values to 0, 51, 98, and I'll just keep it to RGB, and this is how it looks. Right, now let's style this news heading. So for that we have this division with the class of news heading. So here I'll just type news container, news heading, and let's set the font weight to bold. And if you go to this original design, here we can see that we have this border at the right side. So let's do that. Let's add a padding right, and let's set it to 20 pixels, and we'll also set a margin right, and let's set it to 20 pixels as well. And now let's add a border right, and let's set it to 1 pixel solid, and for the color I'll just type white, and we have a typo over here. So now we can see we have this border right. Right, now the next thing we will do is we will set the display of the container division to flex, so that the news heading is over here on the left and the news on the right side. So let's go to the container division, which is a news container, and let's tap display of flex, and now we can see that we have the heading on the left and the news on the right side. Right, now let's style this news. So let's go back, and here we can see we have this container division with the class of news. So we need to position all these news anchor tags relative to this container division. So let's style that. Here I'll just type news container, news, and let's set the position to relative, and we'll set the width to 100%. And now let's style the news single. So here we can see we have this anchor tags with the class of news single. So let's type news container, news single, and the first thing we will do is we'll set the color of the text to white. And now let's remove the underline. So let's type text decoration, and let's set it to none, and let's set the font weight to normal. And now the next thing we need to do is we need to display just the active news. So here we can see for the first anchor tag we have this class of active. So what we will do is by default we will set the opacity to 0, and if we have the active class then we will set the opacity back to 1. So let's type news container, news single dot active, and here let's set the opacity to 1. Now we can see we have just one news displayed over here. Now what we need to do is we need to have a little bit of animation when we go to the next news. So here we can see we have this animation when we go to the next news. So for that we need to change the transform value. So let's go back, and first of all let's set the position of this news single to absolute. So let's type position absolute, and let's set the top position to 0 and the left position to 0. And now we can see we have the news over here. So what we will do is by default here we will set the transform translate y value. So let's type transform translate y, and let's set it to -8 pixels. And we'll also add a smooth transition. So I'll just tap transition, all 400 milliseconds ease. And now we can see that our text is shifted to the top. But when we have the active class, we need to bring it to the center. So here let's type transform, translate y 0. And now we can see it looks alright. So now if you go back and here, if you change the active class from this, and if we add it to this news over here, now we can see that we have a different news displayed over here. Let's also check out the mobile version. And now we can see when we are on a mobile screen, we have 2 lines of text. Now what we will do is we will set the overflow of the container division to hidden so that everything outside this container will be hidden. So let's go back, and here for the news container, let's type overflow and let's set it to hidden. And now we can see everything outside the container is not being displayed. But we can see that a little bit of the second line of text is displayed. So for that we will add this transparent background over here. So here we can see that it fades in from a blue color to the transparent background. So let's do that. Here I'll just create an after selector for that. So I'll just type news container : after, and we need to set the position of this to absolute. So let's type position absolute. And for the after selectors, we need to have the content property, and I'll just set it to blank for now. Now we need to position it to the bottom. So I'll just type bottom and let's set it to 0. And I'll just set the left position to 0 and the right position to 0. And let's also add a height, and I'll just set it to 10 pixels. And now if we add a background color, so I'll just tap red. Now we can see that we have this after selector displayed over here with this background color. Now we will go ahead and add a linear gradient background so that at the bottom we have this blue color, and as we go to the top we will have a transparent color. So here let's type linear gradient, and let's type transparent. And for the second color, let's type this blue color right here. And now we can see that we have this color, and it looks like the text is fading out. Right, that's basically it with the design. Now let's go ahead and add the functionality. So let's go back and let's go to the JavaScript file. And the first thing we will do is we will select all the single news. So if you go back to the HTML file, here we can see we have these anchor tags with the class of news single. So let's type const news single all, because we're going to select all the news single classes. So let's type equals document.query selector all, and here let's type news container news single. Now this line of code will store all the news single divisions inside this news single all constant. Now the next thing we need to do is we need to keep track of the current active news. So for that, let's create a variable, and I'll just call it current active, and by default I'll just set it to 0. And the next thing we need to have is the number of news that we have. So we can get that from the length of this constant. So let's type let total news equals news single all dot length. So this will store the length of this array inside this variable. Alright, now let's go ahead and create a function for changing the news active state. So let's type const change news, and in this function let's write the code to change the active class. So what we need to do is we need to set the active class to the current active element. So we can just type news single all, and in square brackets we can just type current active, and then we can type dot class list dot add, and here we'll just type active. So this will add the active class to the current active element. Right, now let's go ahead and call this function. So I'll just type change news. Now if you go back to our website, we can see that the active class is added for the first element. I'll just go ahead and remove the active class from here, and now we can see that the active class is added to the first news. Now if you go ahead and change this current active value to, let's try 4. Now this should have the active class set to the fifth element, because it starts from 0, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So this news should be displayed on our website. So let's go back, and we can see that the correct news is displayed over here. So now let's go ahead and remove this from here. I'll just type 0 and I'll just add the active class over here for the first element. Now let's go ahead and create a set interval so that this function will be called every set amount of time. So let's go ahead and create a variable for that. I'll just call it duration and I'll just set it to 3000, which is 3000 milliseconds, which is 3 seconds. So let's create a set interval. So I'll just type set interval, and for the interval I'll just type duration, and here I'll just call this change news function. So here I'll just type change news. Now what we need to do is we need to change this current active every 3 seconds. So here in this change news function, let's write the code for that. So I'll just type current active plus equals 1. So this will add 1 to the current active, but we also need to see whether the current active is more than the number of news that we have. So let's add an if condition. So just type if current active is greater than or equal to total news minus 1, because arrays start from 0, and if it is true, then we need to set the current active to 0. Now this condition means that we have reached the end of the news, so we need to set the news back to 1. So I just type current active equals 0, and here let's add an else, and I'll just add this current active plus equals 1 inside the else. Right, now let's save this and let's go back to our design, and here we have the first news and then we have the second news. But when we have the second news, the first news is still active. So let's write a function to remove the active class. So I'll just type const remove all active, and here I'll just loop through all the news. So I'll just type news single all dot for each, and I'll just call each of the news n. And here let's go ahead and type n dot class list dot remove and active. So this will remove the active class from all the news. Now let's call this function just before we add the active class. So here I'll just type remove all active. Right, now let's go back, and here we have the first news, and now we have the second news. So after 3 seconds the news is changing. Let's see whether we have the first news displayed after the last one. So this is the last news, and now we can see we have the first news displayed once again. So that's basically how you can create this news ticker using HTML, CSS and JavaScript. Right, here I'm in the dashboard of my Blogger website, and let's go over here to theme, and we need to edit the theme code. And this is how our website looks right now. So we are using a default Blogger theme called Contempo Lite. So let's go ahead and click on this arrow and let's click on edit HTML. And now we need to add this design to our theme code. Now this design is basically set to position of fixed, so no matter where we add the code, the design will always be displayed at the top. So I'll just add it to the end of our theme code. So I'll just go to the end, and let's go just before the body tag ends, and I'll just paste the code over here. First of all, let's paste the CSS. I'll just create a style tag over here, and let's paste the CSS over here. So let's go back to the source code, and I will leave the link of the source code in the description. So let's go to the style.css file, and let's copy everything from this line of code till here, and let's copy this from here, and let's paste the code over here inside the style tag. Right, now let's add the HTML. So let's go back to our source code, and let's go to the HTML file, and let's copy all this HTML from here till here. So here we can see we have all these news, so you can go ahead and change the content of the news to whatever you want. And if you want to add a new news, you can just go ahead and create a new anchor tag and add it over here. And if you want to remove any of these news, you can just delete the anchor tag from here. Now the news that you see over here is a link, because here we can see it is an anchor tag. So here you can add the link of any page over here. So in place of this hash, you can add the link of the news page. Right, let's copy all of this from here, and let's go back and paste it over here. And we also need to add the JavaScript. So let's create a script tag for that. And here in the script tag, we will add the JavaScript. So let's go back to our source code, and let's go to the main.js file, And let's copy all this JavaScript from here and let's paste it over here. And let's go back to our HTML file, and here we can see that we also have this font that we need to add. So let's copy the link of this font from here, and let's go back and we need to paste it in the head section. So let's scroll up. I'll just search for the end of the head section, so I'll just type >head, and here just before the head tag ends I'll just paste the link of the fonts. And now if you go back to our CSS, here we can see that the font is added to the body, but we haven't copied the styles of the body to our theme code. So let's copy this line of code from here for the font, and we need to paste it inside the news container division. So let's go back and let's scroll down to the end, and here in the CSS I'll just paste the line of code. So I'll just paste it over here. So we have the font family set to Poppins. Right now let's click on save and let's see whether everything is working alright. And here we can see we have some problems in line number 2960. So let's go to the line. Now the problem is that we are writing the code inside an XML file. So here instead of ampersand we have to type &amp semicolon. Right now let's click on save. And now let's go back to our website and let's refresh this page. Now here we can see that the news design is not being displayed, but if you scroll down, here we have the design. So the design is basically below all the other elements. So we need to add a Z index. So let's go back and let's go to the CSS. And here in the news container, let's go ahead and add a Z index. I'll just type Z index. And I'll just set it to 500, and let's click on save. And let's go back to our website and let's refresh this page. And now we can see that the news design is displayed over here, but we have some problem in this text. So let's right click over here and let's go to inspect. And if you scroll down, now here we can see we have some word break by the theme itself. So we need to change this to something else. So we can change this to normal. So if I just type normal, we can see that the news is displayed correctly. So let's add a word break of normal. Let's go back and let's go to the container division. So here I'll just type word break normal, and let's save it. And now let's go back to our website and let's refresh this page. And now we can see everything looks alright. Let's open one of these posts. And here we have the post displayed, and here also we have the news design displayed. But here we can see that some of the content of our website is hidden below this news design. So we need to add some margin top for the body. So let's select the news container division. And here we can see that we have a width of 762 pixels and we have a height of 44 pixels. So we need to add a margin top of 44 pixels to the body. So let's go back and here let's add some styles to the body. So I'll just type body and let's set the margin top to 44 pixels and let's click on save. And let's go back to our website and let's refresh this page. And now we can see we have the correct margin top for our design. Let's go to the home page. And here also it looks alright. Let's scroll down, and if we scroll up, we can see that we also have some element over here. So when we scroll up, we have this element. So we need to add the margin top for this as well. So let's right click over here and let's go to inspect. And here we have this division, and let's scroll up and let's go to the container division. And this is the container division. So we have this header and we have the class center, top and sticky. So let's copy this selector from here. And we need to add a margin top for this as well. So let's go back. And here I'll just add a comma and I'll just add the new selector. And now let's save this. And now let's go back to our website and let's refresh this page. And now let's scroll down and let's scroll up. And here we can see we have the correct margin top for this element as well. So everything is working alright. So that's basically how you can add this design to your Blogger website. Right here, I'm in the dashboard of my Blogger website. So let's go over here to theme and let's click on this button and let's click on edit HTML. And let's go to our code. So let's scroll down and we had added the code at the end of our theme code. So here is our code. Now we need to make some changes in the JavaScript. So here we can see that we are displaying all these news one by one using the JavaScript code over here. And what we need to do is we need to remove all these news items from here, and we need to display the posts of our Blogger website over here. So I'll just go ahead and comment all of this. So just type less than exclamation hyphen hyphen. So all this HTML is now commented. You can go ahead and simply delete all of this code. Right now, let's scroll down to the JavaScript, and here we need to create some variables. So the first thing we will do is we'll create a variable for the latest posts. Let's type let latest posts equals, and we will create an empty array for now. And then here we have the current active variable, and then we have the total news. So I'll just change this to total posts. And here we need to calculate the total posts from this latest posts array. So right now we don't have any items over here. So let's go ahead and cut this from here, and we will assign the value later. And then we have the duration set to 3000, which is going to be 3 seconds. Now we need to make some more changes in the JavaScript, but before that, let's go ahead and write the script to get all the posts of our Blogger website. So for that, let's scroll down, and you need to create a script tag for that. So I'll just type script, and here in the src we need to add a URL. So I'll just close the script tag over here. Now in this src you have to type /feeds /posts /default, and then you need to type ?alt equals JSON in script, and then we need to add some more parameters. So let's type ampersand, and the next parameter is going to be max results, and the max results we will keep it to 5. You can add any number over here. So this is basically the number of results that we get. So in this case we will have 5 latest posts fetched, and the last parameter we need to have is a callback function. So let's type ampersand callback, and we'll name the function get latest posts. Now since we are writing all of this inside XML code, we have to type ampersand amp semicolon, and here also we need to type ampersand amp semicolon. Right now let's go ahead and create this function get latest posts. So let's go over here and we'll create a function over here. So I'll just type const get latest posts. Now we get some data from this callback function. So I'll just call the data data. You can call this anything you want. Now first of all, let's check whether the data is being fetched. So let's create a console.log, and here let's type data, and let's click on save. Now what's going to happen is that once all the data is fetched, this function called getLatestPosts is going to be called, and here in this function we are just console.logging the data. So let's go back to our website and let's refresh this page, and let's right click over here and go to inspect. Let's go to the console, and if we go over here to object, here we can see we have this data, we have the feed, and if we open the feed we can see we have all this data. And if we open this entry, here we can see that we have all these posts. So for the first post, if you open the title, here we can see how to make your life easy with ChatGPT. This is the first title over here. So in this way we can see that we have 5 posts fetched over here. Now we can go ahead and use this data and display all the posts over here. So let's go back to our theme code. Now instead of console.logging it over here, let's store the posts inside latest posts. So let's type latest posts equals, and we'll type data, and in the data we had feed, and in the feed we had the entry, and in the entry we had all the posts. So we'll just pass the data feed entry to this latest post. So we'll just assign this array to this latest post array. Right now the next thing we need to do is we need to calculate the number of posts, and we need to assign the value to this total posts variable. So what we will do is we'll just create a function called init, and here I'll just remove this assignment from here and also from here, and we'll assign all these values in this init function. So let's create the init function. So I'll just type const init, and here first of all let's type current active 0 and duration 3000, and now let's set the total posts. So let's type total posts equals, and we need to set it equal to the number of items inside this latest posts array. So let's type latest posts dot length. Right now the next thing we need to do is we need to generate all the titles from the posts. So for that we'll create a function, and I'll just call the function generate titles. So I'll just call the function over here inside this init function. Right now let's create this generate titles function. So let's type const generate titles. Now here we need to loop through all the posts. So let's type latest posts, and we will use a for each loop for that. And for the single post I'll just call it p. Now in this we need to create this anchor tag. So we need to add a class of new single. We need to add the post link as the href, and we need to get the post title over here. So let's create this element. So here let's type const, and I'll just call it a equals document dot create element, and we'll create an anchor tag. So I'll just type a. Now for this anchor tag we need to have a class called news single. So let's type a dot class list dot add news single, and then we need to set the href to the post link. So let's type a dot href equals. Now let's go back to our website, and here we can see for the post link, if we open this array, here we have this link, and if I open that, here the last element has this href, and in that we have the post link. So this is basically the post link. So we need to go inside link and the last element, and in that we have href. So let's go back, and here let's type p, because we are calling it p over here for each of the single posts dot link, and we need to get the last element. So let's type p dot link dot length -1. So this will give us the last element, and we need to type dot href. So this will store the link of the post inside this href. Now let's go ahead and add the title inside the anchor tag. So let's type a dot inner html equals, and let's go back to our website, and here we can see for the title we have title, and in the title we have this dollar symbol $T. So let's type p dot title dot dollar symbol $T. Now the next thing we need to do is we need to add this anchor tag inside this news division. So let's go ahead and reference this. So here let's type const news equals document dot query selector news container news, and let's scroll down, and here we need to type news dot append child, and here we need to add the anchor tag. So let's type a. Now if you scroll up, here we can see that we are referencing the news single all, and in that we are referencing all the items with the class of news single. But here we can see by default we don't have any item with the class of news single. We are generating it using JavaScript. So in the beginning we won't have any news single element, so this will give us an error. So I'll just go ahead and delete all of this, or I'll just cut this from here, and let's go ahead and change this to a let, because we don't have any assigned value over here. Right now let's scroll down, and here in this generate titles function let's type news single all, which is this variable, and we're going to paste the code over here. So now what we will do is we will reference all the news single elements, and we will store it inside this news single all variable, because here we can see that we have generated all the news single elements and we have added it to this news division. Right now the next thing we need to do is we need to set the active class to the first element. So here we can see for the first anchor tag we have this class of active, So let's scroll down, and here let's type news single all, and for the first element we need to type 0 because arrays start from 0. And let's type dot class list dot add, and let's type active. Right now let's scroll down and let's see whether we need to change anything, and I think everything looks alright. So let's go ahead and save this, and let's go back to our website, and let's refresh this page. And here we can see we have the first post displayed and the second post is not being displayed. So let's go to the console and let's see what error we have. So here we have some problem. Total news is not defined. So let's go back and let's scroll down, and here we can see we have total news, but we have changed the variable name to total posts. So let's scroll down and let's change it to total posts. Now we need to make one more change over here, which is that we have to add this inside a function. So right now the set interval will be executed right away, but if we take a look at this function change news, here we can see that we need to access the news single all, but if you scroll up, in the beginning we have not assigned the value. So what we will do is we'll create a function called display posts. So let's type display posts, and let's create the function over here, and in that function we will add this set interval. So let's type const display posts, and let's cut this line of code from here and let's paste it over here. And now let's save this, and let's go back to our website and let's refresh this page. And I think we have some problem in the code, so it is changing too fast. So let's go back to our code, and here we can see we have this problem in our code. We have set it to colon, we have to set it to equals, so duration equals 3000. Right now let's save this once again, and now let's go back to our website and let's refresh this page. And here we can see we have the first post, and then we have the second post, and we have the third post, then we have the fourth post, then the fifth post, and then we go back to the first post. So if we go back over here and if I change this max results to, let's try 3, and now let's save this. Now let's go back to our website and let's reload this page. And now we have the first post, then we have the second post, and then we have the third post, and then we again go to the first post. So this is basically how you can display the latest post in your Blogger website as a news ticker. So that's basically it for this video. If you have any doubts, you can ask in the comments below. And if you like this video, please click on the like button and subscribe to this channel to get the latest video updates. Thanks a lot for watching. Have a nice day. Thank you.